Right, so would you like to introduce who you are?
Yeah, my name is Rob, and I'm an ex-prison officer of 21 years.
Alright, so what was your role as a prison officer then? Which prison was it at? Sorry.
I worked in three different prisons. One was Pentonville in London, then Chelmsford in Essex, and Bulwood Hall, which was a foreign national prison.
Okay, cool. So first of all, we will talk a little bit about Tommy Robinson. What's your thoughts on him?
I think, in my opinion, Tommy Robinson is a political prisoner, the same way as some people might have looked at Nelson Mandela as being a political prisoner.
Some might say though that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist.
Yeah, but Nelson Mandela was a proven, convicted terrorist.
So you wouldn't put them in the same line as each other, would
No, I
you?
wouldn't put them in the same line, but there are people there who have lifted up Nelson Mandela as a superhero when in fact he wasn't.
Okay. So first of all, take me through the procedures on what would happen when Tommy Robinson would have went to Belmarsh prison that day. He got sentenced. What would be the procedure?
Well, he would arrive in the reception. They'll check that his details are correct, that he's actually they've got a warrant to hold him in prison. He would then have his belongings taken off of him and boxed and bagged up. He would be all prisoners are strip searched, and he would then be located onto a wing or a cell then a wing, wherever he will be put in the prison.
So obviously he got put in solitary confinement. Is that something that he would have had to ask for? Would they have just done it because of the safety himself?
You can ask for it, which is called becoming a vulnerable prisoner, but I think he would be put in under what's called good order and discipline, which is just, I'll break that down. Good order means that they don't want anybody on the wings that would be, they could see would be an agitator or could cause problems for the prison system. And discipline, again, if that was comes under the same thing, whether they could cause problems on the prison. So it would have been the governor's decision to put him in solitary confinement.
Okay, so we was aware that he was put in solitary confinement. So there was a news story in the Daily Star that claimed that he walked in like a celebrity, and he was showering amongst other inmates, and he got decked by an OAP. Could this be possible if he's in solitary confinement?
Well, I would have thought that they would have kept him separate from all prisoners anyway, and they would have took him straight down the segregation unit after he was processed. And for the fact that it's come from the Daily Star, well, it's not. To be honest, it's not one of the more reputable newspapers.
I think the Mirror also tried to publish it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, they've got that line of anti-Tommy Robinson, so they will probably. There is no evidence for that story.
so did you know about Tommy Robinson when he was a prison officer?
No, I didn't know. No, I never knew. I left the prison service in 2012.
Okay. Oh, so it'd have been about 3 years into what he was doing.
Yes. Yeah, I knew of him because that would have been in 2000, pre 2012. That would have been his old EDL time.
Yeah.
But I knew of him, but that was it really.
Okay, so just want to rewind back to the original arrest. Did you watch the live stream outside that courthouse?
Yes, I did. Yes, and I thought that my personal opinion is that Tommy Robinson was being set up, that he was going to be, they were just finding any reason why to arrest him, and I think the political system is out to get Tommy Robinson.
Okay, so there are people still saying that he broke reporting restrictions, he was in contempt of court. What do you think to those people that are making those claims?
It's the same as that there are reporters at these things, and I believe there were other reporters that reported on that case. And if you think of other cases that are very similar, I'm sure there's been. I think if it had been from an official newspaper, they wouldn't have bothered.
Well, like he did read from a BBC article the names.
Yes.
Isn't that allowed?
Well, if there's an injunction on the names, then surely the BBC broke the rules.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what everybody's talking about. That he read from the book, but then they also said because he was seen to be filming them on the way in, he may have caused them anxiety.
Well, I think people should think about the anxiety which they cause, because they're not sensitive little flowers. Like these people have been grooming, and they're organised criminals. So I don't think there should be concern about their anxiety.
But have you ever known? Is it possible for somebody to be arrested? He was arrested originally on breach of peace. He was then refused his own solicitor, and then he was sent to jail within 5 hours. Is that something normal?
Well, I thought he did have to go through the process of going to a magistrate's court from police to the magistrate's court, and there might be a time where, if it's a weekend, there might be a duty solicitor, but I can't see why he was refused his own solicitor.
Right. Okay. So obviously, we forward on. He then brought out a documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, called Panodrama.
I haven't seen the documentary, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so like after he bought that documentary, which was to expose the BBC, within the first 3 to 5 days of that, he was then taken off Facebook, and then the Attorney General also put the trial date in order. Do you not think that proves
I think what's
the corruption
very
behind it all?
suspicious about that is that there's powers to be that do not want Tommy Robinson speaking about anything, because it's so sensitive. Because what he says about Muslim grooming gangs, he's brought so much to a light of Muslim grooming gangs that they don't want that truth coming out, and he's a threat to. They might say he's a threat to public order, so they're going to try and silence him.
So what do you think about his how the prison officers in there would be treating him? Do you think they would support him? Like,
well, when I was a prison officer and I worked in 3 different prisons, I would have thought a vast majority of prison officers would support him, but wouldn't say they were supporting him because they have fear of discipline. Because I know when I was a prison officer, if I had said that, oh yeah, I support Tommy Robinson, I would have been disciplined. I'm certain of that.
you're definitely certain, yeah?
Definitely certain that if any support, if I said, oh, I think Tommy Robinson shouldn't be here, or come out of any form of support for him, I would have been disciplined, if not sacked.
Wow.
And that's quite a harsh thing to say, but because I believe the prison system has been run by a socialist left wing, has always been run by a politically correct left wing agenda.
Yeah, of course.
That if you disagree with anything of that political correct left wing agenda, then you're considered a racist, fascist, Islamophobe, or whatever you want to call.
Islamophobe,
Yeah.
So, what do you think a case like this was brought to the Old Bailey, though?
The only way I can think that it was taken to the Old Bailey is because it's a secure court. Now, I don't know where the original crime was committed up in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And I think it should have been held there. I think he should have had a trial by jury. And I don't know anybody that's got a sentence. He should have been a trial by jury, and I can't understand why he wasn't tried.
Are you not meant to be given the option if you want to be tried by jury?
He went not guilty, and the judge has decided. I thought you were supposed to be tried by your peers.
Right.
That's the whole thing about trial by jury. Especially the sentence that it was, potential sentence that he could have received was 2 years. Well, that's beyond the magistrate, so it has to be by Crown Court.
Right. So, but why would he go to a prison like Belmarsh? I believe it's a maximum security prison.
I think one of the reasons is why, I think that it could be quite an harmless reason, because there's two views. There's one view that it could be because he's a very high-profile prisoner. But the other thing is, when you're in a court, certain courts send to certain prisons. Now, as far as I know, the Old Bailey sends out to Belmarsh and Brixton. So there might have been a decision that we'll send him to Belmarsh, as that's where we can keep him more of as he's quite high profile. So I think that it was really a matter of one of those two prisons, and the Belmarsh would have been more obvious.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, do you think that there's anybody, if there was anybody else that done the same thing, I say if there was any other person in the country that was outside that courthouse and done what he did, do you think they would be sentenced?
I think they might have been arrested, and at the very most, they would have gone to a magistrate's court, and he might have gone up for contempt of court or something, and he would have got a slap on the wrist. He would have gone sort of, oh, the very worst for a contempt of court he might have got would have been, for first time offence, would have been community service. But they were after him, so they were always.
It wasn't really in contempt of court. They were proven guilty, weren't they? And there was one Muslim that actually tried to overturn it, saying he was in contempt, and the judge threw it out.
Yeah.
So they basically got him now on causing anxiety.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of them.
Yeah. But they did that. They've done that
Oh,
all
and
the time.
They also said he was trying to get vigilante action against the Muslims. If you watch the video, he was asking the media, why don't you go and fight? Because obviously the media follow him and other people that's on his side around, asking them questions, slandering them. And so Tommy Robinson on live stream said, why don't you go and film these people and ask them questions?
Yes.
But they twisted it and said he was asking us, his supporters, to go and ask the paedophiles these questions.
Yeah.
So they were saying that he was trying to cause vigilante action.
But how many times have we seen where mainstream media have always done things where the protests outside the Old Bailey said there was only about 100 or so people, and there's been thousands of people there, and anything that's involves Tommy Robertson, they always twist it in such a way that in a negative light. The fact that the man has brought to light some of the biggest paedophile rings, and it's actually put pressure on them to bring these people to light.
But what do you think why do you believe they put reporting restrictions on these grooming gangs?
I think it's because they were Muslim. I think if there had been Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones and Mr. Bloggs, I don't think there would have been restrictions.
We seen, look at was it Cliff Richard when he got falsely accused?
Yes.
And look at how much media was there.
Yes.
And
people
there wasn't even girl, was there?
And the BBC got tipped off by the police, and there was helicopters filming the raid, and he wasn't even charged with anything.
And could you see that happening to a high-profile Muslim?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think Islam is such a delicate subject, because you look at it this way. I think with the socialists, for Labour Party and people like that, Labour, 80% of Muslims, 85% of Muslims vote Labour. So when you get a situation that might upset their voters, they see that Muslims are Labour voters, and they don't want to upset their own voters.
So, what else can you tell me about life as a prison guard? Did you ever get any bribes, or
no?
did you see any corruption?
You was always very aware, but they would try and do it in a subtle way. They'll say, jokingly, they'll say, if you bring can you bring us in a bottle of whiskey or a telephone and joke about it, and just as a bait. That was a typical way. That was a typical way to attention, and you just say, no, don't be stupid. You just play it down, because you say, if you was to challenge them, say, we're only joking. But some officers I know used to bring alcohol and mobile phones in, and a lot of them have been caught. All of them, well, there was cases where when I was in the prison service, mobile phones were far more harder to get in because of the size, and they were expensive. So they would say to an officer, look, bring us in this mobile and we'll pay you £500,000, because obviously they want you to run their drugs things inside prison. So they would pay, they'd say, okay, well, someone will meet you outside, up the road, they'll pay you the money, give you the mobile phone, and you bring it in. And that was the most common way. Or they'll say, night staff, they knew people were on nights, they say, right, can you get us a bottle of whiskey in? Right, a bottle of whiskey in those days might have cost about £20 odd, but they'll say someone will give you the whiskey and give you £100 to bring it in. But it's why do you want to lose your job for a £100 bottle of whiskey?
Did you see people bring their phones in and?
I never saw people bring officers bringing. The officers were caught. I knew officers that were caught bringing in mobile phones and lost their job straight away. But I never actually caught anybody. But I knew loads of staff that did get caught because for bringing a mobile phone, if you're getting £1,000 for bringing a mobile phone and you've got no money, you're short of money because prison officers' wages dropped a lot. It's not gone really in line with inflation. To be given £1,000 to bring drugs in, that was another thing. So they could own mobile phones, drugs. They were earning quite a lot of money. But you know, if you get caught, then you're looking at imprisonment. And they would come down on you really hard. So it was never worth it.
Yeah, of course.
Why would I want to lose if I lost my job by smuggling in? If I'd lost my job, that would have meant my family. I would have gone to prison. It would have affected everybody. It would never ever be worth it. Never worth it.
So I was watching Danny Tomo live last night. He's seen Tommy Robinson yesterday. He said that the only person he really sees is an imam.
Oh.
There's an imam that goes around all the inmates.
Yeah.
Pops his head in and asks them how they are, and I don't know if he preaches. I didn't really get a lot out of him.
I think sometimes they have chaplaincy in prison. They'll have different Christian religions. Like they might have a Church of England, Catholic, Baptist, Methodists. They'll have Jewish, different religions like Muslim. So every so often it'll be the turn of the Jewish man to go round and the Muslim to go round. Normally it's the Muslim or the Church of England one who goes round. And they'll be the ones that will go and speak to him, say, "Are you okay?" It's like a chaplaincy visit.
Mm.
So, but to think it was a Muslim all the time, I don't know if that was trying to prove a point.
Yeah, I was thinking that. That's what he said. Every day since he's been in there popping his head in.
Yeah, he shouldn't. You could understand once in a week because he's down the segregation.
I might be wrong if it was every day, but
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm not 100% sure he said every day, but he said he's seen him.
I would expect it to happen to him over, say, once a week, or over because if he's done a segregation unit, a chaplain would pop down there. One of the chaplains would pop down there every day, and there's so many different types of chaplains from different Christian denominations and plus Muslims and that. So I can understand him getting a visit once a week, but not every day.
Yeah, it might have been just once a week. He's only been there 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think he said every day.
Yeah.
But there was a protest outside last Saturday, the Saturday before. How do you think the prisoners would have reacted to that? Because they would have heard it. Obviously, there was fireworks. Chanting was about 200.
I was
people.
aware of the demonstration, but one of the organisers stated that he wasn't going to do it until after 6 o'clock on the weekend because he knew that before that, the normal regime, prisoners would be out, people were having their visits. And that, to be honest, if you're having your visit, the last thing you want to do is get it interrupted by a demonstration. And if he said, I've been in prison as a prisoner. If someone upset my visit, I'd be really angry. So what they've done is said, right, we don't want to affect the prisoners. We just want to make the protest, because most of the prisoners on the weekend would be banged up or locked up after 6 o'clock, especially at Belmarsh. There only might be a few cleaners out, but it wouldn't affect the normal running of the prison. But what he wanted to do was to go and make as much noise and show the protest and support for Tommy Robinson, but he didn't want to disturb the regime for people like missing their visits.
But how do you believe the prisoners would have reacted though to the amount of noise? Considering if it's, I don't know what the population of Muslims are, but
I always thought it was quite high at Belmarsh, so they would have been but they'd been locked away anyway, so they would have been quite angry and quite annoyed by the noise. But there would be prisoners in there that would be supportive of Tommy Robinson, and I think they would be cheering along. So you would, I think it would have been quite a noisy place inside and outside the prison.
So how did it work with letters and emails? How did it work with letters and emails?
Well, basically, he'll be allowed a letter a week.
Just one letter a week.
Yeah, he's about, when he gets into prison, he'll be allowed a letter. As a first letter that when you first get in, he'll be allowed a phone call within 24 hours of arrival. He could make a phone call, and then he'll be given phone calls. He'll be given they do a pin system, so he could have his friends, or he'd be let out. Hopefully, he'd be let out of his cell so he can make phone calls. He'll be allowed visiting orders because he's convicted. He'll be allowed a visit. He's allowed a visit once every fortnight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the letters from home, would he be able to access?
He'll be able to get letters from home. Letters. If anybody sent him a letter, he would receive it, but it would be censored. And what I mean by censored, every single letter that comes into the prison, whether it's Tommy Robinson or not, is opened and checked inside for money or any other contraband.
And would they read the letters?
I think in Tommy Robinson's case, they probably would. But there's so many letters that come into the prison. All you do is you would open up the letter, take the letter out.
They'd be reading all day. These.
You can't do it.
He'd be getting loads
And
of
not
money.
of them
wouldn't
being foreign language, so it's not practical. But you'd probably have a good look. I think for Tommy Robinson's one would be checked quite thoroughly.
Right. Trying to think of anything else. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, not in this moment. No.
So,
But except for all I say is that I as a ex-prison officer support Tommy Robinson.
yeah. Just one question I wanted to ask, unrelated to Tommy Robinson. What's your thoughts on Boris Johnson becoming the new Prime Minister?
As Boris Johnson, I think his main thing he said he's going to do is for Brexit. And if he doesn't deliver Brexit on the 29th of March, then he's 29th of October, then he's gone by the end of October, 31st of October. If he hasn't reached by the 31st of October, then I think his time as Prime Minister
I'm sure.
is going to go.
Is it true that he said he'll be leaving without no deal?
He did. He said he wants to leave without no deal. But if he doesn't get it, then that's the end of the Conservative Party is going to get smashed to pieces in the next general election. And I think the Brexit Party, and unfortunately the Labour and the Liberals will pick up quite a lot of seats.
But I think at the moment Labour's probably its worst it's ever been.
Well, Jeremy Corbyn, you've got a Marxist leader. Nobody likes him outside London.
Yeah. Maybe in Birmingham.
Maybe in Birmingham. And he's got a very large Muslim support. I don't think he's got many Jewish support though.
No, I doubt that, mate.
No.
Oh, so it's been a pleasure to speak to you.
It's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you.
No worries, mate. And
Take care.
look after yourself. Bye.